everybody, welcome back to the Desmo Works channel, and this video was supposed to have been some nice on-track footage of the first race weekend with Bemsee in Thunderbike Sport on the 748S, but alas it did not go to plan. So I'll give you an update of where I was at the weekend. So on Friday I was at Brands Hatch on the Indy circuit. I managed the second session, which was still damp stroke drying, so I only did 4 laps on a set of wets, and the bike was running really well. In between the second and third sessions I then put a full dry setup in, so went back out, the sun was out, it was about 10 or 11 degrees, track temperature would have been quite low, but I was able to push on and was having a really good session. The bike was really strong, pulling really well. I was doing reasonable lap times. For first session out in a few months, I think I was in the 53/54s. And then in about lap 6 or 7, I had the bike just cut out, going down the start finish straight. So I was in about 5th gear, flat out. The bike just completely cut out. It then fired back up again, so I went into Paddock Hill Bend, down the dip, up to Druids, it cut out again. So I pulled to the side of the track and started coasting round, but on the way down to Graham Hill Bend, it completely cut out again. So I coasted all the way down and then slowly pulled onto the grass, which was absolutely sodden. Sat there for a bit, tried to get the bike restarted, it wouldn't, so I put it up against the tyre barrier and then proceeded to wait for the session to be finished. When that finished, pushed the bike back to the garage. Same as I had happened at Cadwell. Once I got back across the track, so the bike had sort of cooled down for a couple of minutes, the bike started and ran correctly. So the intermittent fault is still there. So where I've changed the throttle pickup sensor, I have checked the resistive load on all of the temperature sensors, which was correct. The throttle potentiometer is correct. So I am stuck with one of 2 possible problems at the moment. Either there's a breakdown in the loom somewhere and it doesn't show itself till it's either the bike's right up to temperature, or it's just that there's something wrong inside the ECU. When I was chatting with Steve Jordan of Jordan Motorcycles in the garage, he said that when he'd ran a Ducati, they'd had a similar issue, and on the dyno they'd been testing it all through, couldn't get it to simulate the same problem, and then when he went to get off the bike, as he was lifting his leg over the bike, he caught the ECU because he wasn't running the seat unit on the dyno. As he caught the ECU with his foot, the bike cut out. He then restarted the bike, and every time he tapped the ECU, the bike would cut out. He found that he had a cracked board in there, but what he said is it could also have been a loose chip. Now I'm in the situation where, having not replaced the ECU or the wiring loom, I believe that the fault's in one of those. I am going to swing the diagnostic meter through the bike again to see if it picks up any faulty components, and then see where I go from there. So let me just talk you through what I'm going to check on the bike. If you'll remember from the servicing that I did, I replaced the throttle pickup, which is working. I checked this again at the track, it was within spec. I've checked the 2 engine temperature sensors. This one is for the fan, so that is not really that important in terms of operation, but it was in spec. This one is the one for the ECU, and that was in spec as well. And then this one up here just drives the temperature sensor on your dash, and again was in spec. Deep in the darkest reaches of below the tank there, we've got the throttle position sensor. Now these can fail, so whilst it might have passed the last test, it might have failed again, so I've got to check that. We've got new HT leads on there. I was getting a good spark, and more importantly, the way the bike completely cut out, both of these won't fail at the same time. So if I was getting an intermittent spark, it would be on one cylinder, would be dropping. Interestingly, and here's another possible symptom that's pointing to the ECU, the bike was revving way up above 13,000 RPM on the clock. So last season it was reading correctly. It would sort of hit the hard limit, or sorry, the electronic limiter about 11,500. On Friday, I was quite often seeing the needle hitting the 13,000 mark and still wasn't hitting the rev limiter, so this was reading incorrectly. Obviously, I've always had the problem with this reading wrong, which I think is a resistive issue. That's brand new, and I don't think there's an issue with the power commander. Now, the problem with these older bikes, people change the chips, and you can see that this one having not got the void sticker on there. Now this could be in a number of things, that this chipset could be loose inside here, or there could be a board fault, or there could have been moisture that's got in here. If you remember, those of you that were party to the build on the Thunderbike build series, I was rebuilding a bike that had sat outside for a number of years, dismantled, following its engine blow up. Now with this uncovered, water can seep into that bung, that little plug, because it's the sticker from Ducati's off of there. Alternatively, there might be a loose connection inside this plug, so I can take that apart and check that as well. I'm going to check all of the earth connections. Oh, and don't worry, that wasn't loose at the weekend, it's because I cut it off just to check inside there. I could possibly have a main relay issue, so I'm going to get 2 new relays just to be able to try that out as well. I've ordered a brand new loom that goes from the ECU down the left hand side of the bike, because that's the part of the loom that controls fueling, ignition, and all of the key sensor inputs to drive the ECU. So hopefully if there's a defect in this side of this loom, then I might be able to eliminate it that way just by replacing that. And I didn't modify this part of the loom, so I've modified the lighting side, which doesn't really have any direct impact on the bike itself. So I'm thinking I'm going to get an alternate ECU. I've got a new loom coming. I've also got a brand new injector loom coming. I've ordered a new throttle position sensor just in case. I'm going to order another ignition pickup sensor so that I can, if this one comes up as a failure, I can change that out again. I think I've identified someone that's got new old stock for this temperature sensor here, so I'll have a spare one of those as well. And I'm just going to change everything and see if I eliminate the problem. I'm going to book in a track day before Silverstone, so I'm going to go up to Cadwell Park for a track day and see if we cannot eliminate this electrical breakdown stroke failure. Some of you have talked about, could it be the quick shifter? Meeting last year at Cadwell Park where I had the failures, I disconnected that completely. So in other words, I didn't just undo it here, but I physically took this connector out of the power commander, and I ran the race with just doing it the old-fashioned upshifting way. I still was having the cut-out problem, so this is not the problem, and neither is the cabling that's going up to the power commander. Could it be the power commander? I don't know, possible. The only way I'd be able to check that is to run the bike without it on there, which is possible to do. I'll have to, if it comes back when I'm at Cadwell, I can quickly swap over the 2 plugs. It will run a bit rough, but it might help me eliminate whether or not the power commander is at fault. So that's my thought process. Diagnostic tool, get the bike running, see if it throws up any faults. If it does, change those components, but I'm also going to swap out the ECU, the main wiring loom, the injection loom, and then any of the sensors that it might pick up as a problem, and then hopefully resolve the issue. The fuel pump in here has a brand new filter, so I know it was not that, and the fuel pump works and I have no problems with that cutting in and out, so I've pretty much eliminated that. Okay, so that was just a quick update video, a really frustrating one. Those of you that have worked on bikes or cars for a long period of time will know I'm in the worst possible situation in that I have an intermittent fault, which means I can clag up my diagnostic tool and it can say there's nothing wrong with the bike. I can swing through everything and find no problems, yet when I'm out on the track in differing conditions I am having either a partial misfire or a complete cut out of the bike. So something's breaking down either under load, under vibration or under temperature, and I've just got to find that. So I've just got to swing through everything. I'm going to take the loom off and I'm going to go pin to connector and check to see if there's any difference in the resistance across any of the cables stroke wires that sit in there. I'll check every pin to see whether it's loose. I'll check every pin for corrosion, but I'm at the place at the moment where I think fundamentally something has broken down either inside the ECU or one of the sensors is just got an issue that, even though it's saying it's healthy, is not working. So the only thing I can do is swap out parts at the moment and hopefully find it. The bike is an absolute missile, by the way. During the second session, when it was dry and I was able to push the bike, it felt brilliant. I've still got to dial in some settings on the suspension to get it just right, but you know, it was pulling nice. I certainly wasn't the fastest out there, but I certainly wasn't the slowest. So I was in a good place for, I reckon, being in the top 5 or 6 riders. I'm just stuck with a bike that's letting me down at the moment, and I've got to find a way through that, and I'll talk you through the process when I do that. I just wanted to give this quick update because unfortunately I'm away this week, so I'm not going to be working on the bike. The other piece of news is I'm looking to source a second 748 as a spare track bike, because the key piece is, whilst this is going to be my main bike, I've lost 4 races this weekend with no points, and even if I have a slightly slower bike that I can at least get some points on the board, points make prizes, so I've got to do that. I think I might have found one, so I'm just speaking to the owner at the moment, and if that comes off I'll give you an update on that. Failing that, I might do a very quick rush build of another bike, so I have almost all the parts I need barring an engine, but I've already lined up another engine. What I'll do is, if I can get hold of that engine, is a very quick and dirty service on it, so I've got a usable engine and then got another route to be able to sort myself out if this plays up again after I change all the electrics over. Fingers crossed, the new loom, a different ECU, and just checking every component again eliminates the problem. It's not an engine problem, it's not a fueling problem, it's an electrical problem. I just now need to find what that electrical problem is and eliminate it. So very talky video, no work, but I just thought I'd best give you an update because those of you that follow the series might have been expecting some onboard footage. Unfortunately, I didn't have the cameras on the bike for the first 2 sessions because I was just trying to get a feel for where I was at. I just have to say a quick thank you to everybody that subscribed. Being up over the 1,000 mark is fantastic. It really makes it feel great to be doing these videos and this content. There still is plenty more to come, so if you're not a subscriber, please hit the subscribe button that's going to come somewhere down there. Hit the bell for notifications. Hopefully next weekend the parts would have turned up, so I'll do a quick video on changing those parts over. Possibly even the new bike might be here, so I might be able to give you an overview on that bike if that deal comes off. If you like this video, please chuck me a like. Any questions or suggestions as to what you might think it could be, then please let me know in the comments, because I am open to any suggestion. Okay, thanks for watching. See you next week. Cheers then. Bye.